Hey, it's JC. Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we explore the urban lifestyle and jungle survival. Does a 1-2 option survival knife exist? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. First, if you watch this channel regularly but have not subscribed, please do so to help the channel out. And if you'd like to support the channel even more, do check out my shop links in the pinned comment or description, and you can even join as a channel member. Thanks a lot. So where did this myth or belief that there's such thing as a 1-2 option survival knife? Probably it's because of Rambo, because he had a giant combat knife that he used in the movies. Maybe it's television shows and contests like Alone, where contestants are given an arbitrary 10-item limit, so they can only bring out one knife that they think they can use. But if you ask any experienced outdoor person, they'll tell you, bring the right tool for the job. So if you're going out, you need to chop wood, bring a hatchet, an axe, a saw, or even a parang or a chopper. But if you need fine work, woodwork, you want to carve, then you want to bring a smaller knife, shorter blade, thinner blade stock, so that you can handle it easily and it can do really nice cutting fine tasks. So personally, I don't subscribe to this 1-2 option for survival knife, at least in the optimal sense, because there are different tools to do different jobs. And that's why I've talked about the 3-knife system in a video. You can check that out in the link in the card above or description below. So I do believe you should bring out something to chop, something of finer work, and maybe a folding knife of sorts for even more utility work, depending on your needs. But let's just indulge this fantasy for this video and explore if there's such thing as a 1-2 option. What would that knife look like? And I think I've got a couple of options here. Now, what you see in front of you are considered bushcraft style knives or woodcraft knives, very popular now. They are fairly small, about 4 to 4.5 inch style blade, full tang in construction. This is the Moronov Garbuk. It's full tang, even though it's got an over molded plastic handle. This is the DPK Bushmate, made by BPS Knives from Ukraine. But both very competent knives, but generally for finer tasks, woodwork and bushcraft, maybe more leisurely tasks. But if you want a survival knife 1-2 option, the general consensus is you want a larger knife, because a larger knife can do what a smaller knife can do with limitations or maybe difficulty, but a smaller knife can't do what a bigger knife can do. So if you're looking at this style of bushcraft survival knife, if that's a term, then you might look at options like this. They are bigger. That's a 5.25 inch blade, 4.5 inch blade, but more noticeably is the blade stock. So the first two knives have a blade stock of about 3 millimeters or slightly more than 3 millimeters. These are 5 millimeters, much thicker. And the reason you want thicker, bigger knives when you got to the jungle, it needs to do one thing, right? If we are talking about this 1-2 option, it needs to be able to chop, it needs to be able to do fine work. If I'm in a tropical jungle, as my environment is, I need to process bamboo, which is a valuable resource, and these knives will make it really difficult to cut through bamboo. Maybe with a mallet and you could cross batten or beaver chew, but something like this, which is thicker, has a good grind, that works very well in slicing through bamboo. It can cut through wood as well, but it can do finer tasks. So that's the Tops Fieldcraft Bob knife. This is the Tops Brakimo, and knives of this category will be things like the Joker Ember, the Condor Pterosaur, and the Keba BK2. Now let's look at an option that we can call a survival field knife. This is the Steel SRK. This is the one in SK5. It also comes in different steels like Sanmai VG1 and CPM 3V. So this is not really a bushcraft style knife. It's a general survival knife, just due to the shape, the length, but many people think this style of knife is really good for general survival and possibly a 1-2 option as well. Knives similar to this would be the Glock field knife, the Falkneven A1, and various Bark River knives. So generally I would say this is pretty good. It is very tough, very utilitarian, right? It's a jack of all trades, doesn't necessarily do any one thing extremely well, but can do many good things, and one might consider this a good option as a 1-2 option. Here's an interesting knife to consider as a 1-2 option, and this is the Russen Tracker, the original tracker knife design that many knives are now patterned after, such as Dave Beck's WSK, the Tops version, and there's also the SXB Skull Crusher, also made by Tops. But this is the original design, and if you'd like to know more about this knife and why it's a stolen design, do check out my video on it in the link in the card above or the description below. So what makes the tracker knife unique is the fact that it's got two blade profiles. There's a front heavy chopper profile, and then there's a profile here which is more for finer work, and there's also this quarter round almost like a fish hook or gut hook for really nice fine work they can do, for example for feather sticking, or you can also use it as a gutting tool. So this can be considered a one knife or 1-2 option simply because of the capabilities it's supposed to be able to do. Now some people consider this a gimmick knife. Now I've tried this out in the field. Now the different parts do work well. So in terms of its design, I think it has a case to be a 1-2 option. My only concern would be the ability to sharpen this out in the field, simply because you do have this quarter round over here. You can sharpen this, you can sharpen this possibly, but there's no way you'll be able to sharpen that. But I guess if you're in a survival situation, then that part goes down. You'll still be able maybe to sharpen these. But think about it, if you don't have a stone and you're trying to use maybe a river rock or maybe even sand, you might have a hard time sharpening this part here because of this. This part should be quite easy. But I think it still makes a good, interesting case for a 1-2 option. When it comes to a 1-2 option survival knife, many people prefer a large knife. So this might be categorized as a combat fighting utility knife, like a Rambo knife. This one is by Right Edge. It's called the Second Amendment combat knife or survival knife. Now it is a cheap knife, so I'm really talking more about the pattern than the qualities of this specific model. But similar versions of such a knife would be the Cold Steel Leatherneck SF, the classic K-bar of course, and the Ontario SP1. So these knives generally have a clip point style blade, they have a full guard, and sometimes they have a saw back like that. So generally these aren't also full tang knives. A lot of them are rat tang or partial tang, but the Cold Steel Leatherneck, for example, is a full tang. Well, it's not really a full tang, it is kind of rat tang, but it's a really thick tang, almost an inch wide. So these knives are, again, combat knives. So maybe if you are in some kind of tactical situation where you do need a combination of a combat knife along with a survival knife, this might fit you as a 1-2 option. The Bowie style knife is a very popular option, especially for hunters. This is the Cold Steel Recon Scout in 3V, so great steel, really tough and good edge retention. There are many traditional Bowie style knives out there. Others that you can get now probably be the Ontario Raider Bowie, the BK9, the Cold Steel Trailmaster would fall under this similar modern Bowie knife style. So these knives generally are big. There's a full guard as well. This is modified, so I actually removed the top guard. But generally for Bowie knives, full guard. Similar a bit to the combat knives. They have clip points, generally a hollow grind. This is a full flat grind, and good for all purpose again. Many of the Bowie knives are not full tang as well, so that's something to consider. One final knife for consideration as a 1-2 option, especially if you're in the jungle environment, would be the classic parang. This is a Malaysian style parang made by My Parang. It is a Duku Chandong style which originated in Malaysia, and this is what the Orang Asli or the natives use. So it must be good, right? Because it stood the test of time. They use this as a 1-2 option. This is an 8-inch model, so it's actually pretty short. The one I'm currently carrying is a more modern version of a parang. This is the Tops Yakari at 10 inches. But regardless, a knife like that allows you to chop, allows you to make trails if necessary, but can also do fine work because you can choke up, especially with the classic parang design, because usually this is unsharpened so that you can choke up. With something more modern like the Top Chikari, not much room to really choke up, although there is a ricasso here where you can choke up in this way. So the parang to me is definitely in contention of a 1-2 option if you are in the jungle environment. It can just do so many things. It's generally very robust. You can chop, you can cut through bamboo, yet you can do finer tasks. So if you really had to choose Which style knife would you choose as a 1-2 option survival knife? Do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like the content in general, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.